That was more common than it wasn't common with my clients. And so when I think of this argument, it's less about all the valuable things that powerlifting offers, which it does. I'm not arguing that. It's more that what it is not.
Mm-hmm.
And what it is not this,
it's not a hyper focus on your insecurity.
Yeah, it's not a challenge about how you look.
Obsession over image, yeah.
And I actually think that this conversation and kind of philosophy around training that we all had as trainers with clients is more important today than it's ever been. Because of Instagram, it has heightened this already. So this was pre-Instagram. Mm-hmm. This is the advice. We gave this advice pre-Instagram that this is, hey, probably better route for you to focus on.
There were magazines, that's it.
Right. Mm-hmm. And yet this was a major issue. Today, it's way worse. It's way worse and today it's even more distorted because if you're into working out, one of the first things that people do is they go follow all these social media pages of, people that motivate them and inspire them. But then you get this crazy skewed view of the human body that it looks like this all the time, or that there's a lot of these people, or that maybe they're even a majority. Because if I follow 100 people and 60 of them are fitness people, I have this weird distorted ratio of like, man, most of the people I follow or know are like super jacked and shredded, and I'm not. Therefore, I need to do these things. So for me, talking about this, it's more about what powerlifting is not what it really is, because I think that's the part about bodybuilding that's not good.
No, I mean, if you were to take two groups of clients, and the group, A focused on just getting stronger, and group B focused on how they perceive themselves in the mirror, their subjective opinion of whether or not they're improving or not based on the mirror, okay? There's a lot more that could go wrong with the group who's looking in the mirror, for them to even perceive themselves as improving. In other words, they could do a lot wrong for their health, for their energy, for their performance. They could really mess themselves up with their diet and all kinds of things, but continue to think that I think I'm getting better. I think I'm improving. Whereas the group that's just focusing on getting stronger, now they can do some things wrong for sure, but they can't do as much wrong. Like you can't underfeed yourself. You can't get terrible sleep. You can't malnourish yourself. You can't overtrain and beat yourself up. You can't abuse your body as much and continue to get stronger. You just can't. So it's not perfect, but it's a better metric that would encompass that you're doing more of the right things.
Yeah, you're working with your body.
Versus aesthetic. And we know this about aesthetics. We know this about how we perceive as ours. It's so subjective that, you could take, and I would see this, people would lose weight on the scale, lose mostly muscle, and then be happy because they're lighter and skinnier. Mm-hmm. And not even because they're so distorted, right? Think how they view themselves is so distorted. Or people would sacrifice their health to the point where their energy is terrible.
Atrophy their muscles just to attain a certain shape in their waist.
That you actually have that in the bodybuilding world, in the actual high level competitive bodybuilding world. But people would compromise their health, their energy. They'd feel terrible, but because the scale went down a little bit and they're looking in the mirror and they look smaller with the particular type of clothes, whatever, they're like, yeah, I'm in the right direction. Whereas, if you lift more, you lift more. It's objective. There's no opinion. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. I lifted 200 pounds last week. This week I lifted 250 pounds. My subjective opinion doesn't matter. I'm either stronger or not. Right. And so performance, especially when you first get started, at a certain point, you can't keep using performance because obviously you're not going to keep getting stronger forever. Otherwise, we'd all be lifting thousands of pounds by this point. But in the especially for the first 3 years, performance is a great metric because you have to do a lot of things right to continue to improve performance. But to continue to think that you're doing right with aesthetics, you can distort and twist things so much to, look, this is how eating disorders exist. If you've ever worked with anybody or known anybody with a severe eating disorder, you'd think to yourself, like, don't they see in the mirror how unhealthy they look? And they don't see it. To them, they're like, I'm doing great. So the performance side of it is what makes it a healthier pursuit. And it's exactly what you said, Adam. It's you go into working out because you're insecure about a part of your body. If you're training and you're focused on the visual, you're hyper focusing on that insecurity. And I'm gonna tell you something right now. You hyper focus on an insecurity, there's nothing you could do that will get you to the point where you're happy, because you can, man, people will magnify it to the point where it's like, I've had people tell me, do you see this like pooch right here? And I don't see it. Like, I don't see what you're talking about. Because, and I experienced that myself as a kid. I even looking at pictures of myself when I thought I was so skinny after a couple of years of working out, and I was actually looked pretty damn good for a 15-year-old kid who'd been working out for a couple of years, but it was because of the aesthetic. You know, that was the big issue. The other benefit to powerlifting is if you were to look at all the workouts online, if you were to examine all the different workouts and you were to categorize them by workouts to make people look good, and then workouts that are accepted powerlifting workouts,
especially the previous decade.
The powerlifting workouts are science-based. They have the best workout programming.
Well, there's a big factor there, right? Because it's repeatable, it's tangible, it
works or
objective. It doesn't. So you can actually like have a scientific process to that. You can add that there, where it's hard to do. It's more of an art, I would say, I guess is the best like eloquent way to say it for the bodybuilding side, where they're experimenting a lot, you know, in all kinds of different directions, but it's about the individual in that regard, because they're assessing their body's shape, their form, like which muscles need to develop a little bit further. And so it's like what worked best for them. This is where it gets sticky when you get like influencers that are pushing their programming for bodybuilding, because it's like a lot of times it's based off of like how they attain these results versus like your strength program that they applied to Olympic athletes. This is going to hold to every single person that goes through this process.
Well, it requires one of them is required to be scientifically based, and the other one is not. You cannot get stronger without good programming. Like, you're just going to have to like figure that out, especially if you're going to go win. Where you could get really shredded and not have a great program. Everybody already has muscle in their body, and so if you just put yourself in an extreme diet and you get rid of all the body fat you have and you just reveal the muscle you have underneath there. And since a lot of these shows are based off of just how shredded you are, not necessarily if you have your muscle size is a certain size, it's more about symmetry and how shredded you are. Well, you could do that and not have the best lifting program. You could have trained for your bodybuilding show and actually got weaker week over week and go win. You couldn't do that in powerlifting.
In fact, you always do.
Yeah.
With bodybuilding, you actually get weaker walking into a show because of the dieting and stuff. It's not that there isn't any science to bodybuilding training. There's lots of science.